You're listening to Bedroom Beethovens, where notable music makers break down stories accompanied by songs and melodies documenting growth through their 10,000-hour journey. And me? Well, my name is Cello, your host.
I am a bedroom Beethoven.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 120 of the podcast.
Hello. Would you like to listen to a dope hip-hop track? I have the perfect song for you.
This week on the podcast, Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan, Boston. Everybody get on your feet. My guests this week are...
It's not the brainwashing, mind-numbing bullcrap usually promoted in mainstream media. Insight. Drop the beat.
Well, I'm Insight. Now I'm Insight Innovates. And I've been doing, hip-hop for a minute, long time. And that's it. I guess we can go into details after.
Peace, y'all. My name's Edo.G. Some people might know me from Edo.G and the Bulldogs, 91. Collaborating with everybody. That's it.
AKA, everyday other girls.
Yeah, not on that note.
So the people know my name, can you spell it for me? Be the I to the NSIGHC. Add the rhyme to my reminder so you find it with ease. Hey Siri, is it hot?
100 degrees.
Please listen with your shoulder, visit the show. Watch me fiddle with a riddle while I wiggle my toe. Pivot and bust it like Buster, rip it and give us some more. Put your hands up and love it, the brothers are sizzling slow. Didn't you know I stick it with a rhythm, finish your foe. Diminish your mission with intuition, hitting the pose. Finding the Fibonacci sequence in the music.
You want to talk legends in the game? Well, you can count on them to deliver that raw, jazzy, and true-to-life hip-hop. After 35 plus years of knowing each other, it's crazy that we're just now getting their self-titled debut album. Like I said, it's the culmination of decades of friendship and collaboration birthed by the very topics that we will talk about today in this episode, from childhood memories to the early days of the Boston rap scene. And with this 10-track project, both artists sound as hungry and passionate as ever while they deliver one of the year's best releases to date. Go stream it or pick up that blue wax. But before we cross the threshold into episode 120, shout out to Insight for being the plug to get Edo.G on, and shout out to Diamond Media 360 for always being there with the assist as well. If you want to support me, join my other Patreons at patreon.com/bedroombeethovens. They heard this episode a few days early, so if you want to unlock perks, that's the easiest, fastest way to support me. Rating the podcast 5 stars on your preferred platform and joining the social media to connect with me would be greatly appreciated as well. Last but not least, I promise I'm not just talking to hear myself talk, but bedroombeethovens.com is the website. It's the website. It's the hub. It's got all the information there. And what lies ahead is another great chat as Edo.G and Insight Innovates simultaneously pay homage to hip-hop's past, Soul Train, and the app development and early adopter innovation around the time the first iPhone came into existence. It will all make sense, I promise. Also, George Benson is a Jehovah's Witness. I know it's crazy. It doesn't make sense, but I'll put it all into context. All right, let's start the show. Yeah, but that's why I love that era of hip hop, because that's when everything meant something. Ladies love Cool J, Black United leaders living directly on grooving sounds. I mean, I miss that.
Exactly. And we got it from the guys who came before us, BDP, KRS-One. I mean, that was Boogie Down Productions and Knowledge Reigns Supreme over nearly everyone. That was what took me there. Like, we gotta have names that mean something. Something, you know what I mean?
Well, I hope the pandemic has been treating you guys well. Insight, I know that I read a little bit on your background. I read that the streets, they were coming for you, man. There was death surrounding you. You had 4 blocks with 4 different beefs, so it was hard to even leave your house, to the point where you became a recluse. So I think the best thing that came out of that is this global pandemic might have been light work for you. Staying indoors quarantine for months, that must have been a piece of cake.
Yo, it's fun. How do you know my old history, man? Where do you get your? It's funny, man. It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it ain't like it was when I was growing up, but I mean, now it's just I just like I just like working on shit. Whether it's doing beats, making songs, or diving deep into the technology. I just got into diving deep into my mind, man, trying to solve problems and things like that. So I don't really look at it like staying inside. I'm just occupying my mind constantly. That's kind of time flies when I'm doing that.
Well, I've done 120 episodes of this thing. I've had plenty of Philly, too many from Detroit, New York, LA. I feel like it's criminal how few people from Boston I've been able to get on this podcast. And I always say, forget New York. I feel like if you can make it as an artist in Boston, then you can make it anywhere. Facts.
Those are facts.
Yeah, I agree, man. Well, Boston has a lot of talent in Boston, man. I think it's a melting pot. People come here to learn and get educated, and the winters you just go in and just get creative because whoever you influence is gonna go back out to wherever they came from after learning or doing whatever brought them here. You know what I mean? So
yeah, it's easy to lean on New York too because it's 200 miles away. So you can always circulate your music via New York with the cool DJ Red Alert show or Mr. Magic show, stuff like that. And I think a lot of people did that instead of staying in Boston.
Word.
So I got my history right a little bit. So this collaboration, this album was no accident. Take me back to that sunny day in May 1986. A collaboration 35 years in the making here. How were you two first introduced?
His cousin was one of my best friends. We had, grew up in the same area pretty much. Insight didn't live too far from us. So I met him through his cousin in the 80s. He was like, we're going to my cousin's house. My cousin Andre. We went by his house, met him. I think we played. I mean, we were like little kids. So it was young. I think it was even before 86, to be honest with you.
Right.
Because 86 was gangbang life. That's when Sight was really staying in the house.
Yep.
This is when we was even younger, man. So that's how we met. And then, years later, I forgot how I had ran into him or got up with him. Maybe it might have been through Metro Concepts Insight.
Yeah, it probably was. It could have been through Brick because I met up with you on Walnut. We linked up somewhere on Walnut. I just remember going in and giving you like 3 tape. Like you were playing cards. You was playing cards, and then you was like, yeah, you got beats. I gave you like 3 tapes. It had a mad beat. You was like, I told you to give me like 10 beats. You gave me like 50. I remember that.
We linked back up.
Yep.
Then around there we did. I jumped on your album,
right?
And then we went on tour.
Yeah, then we went on tour. Yep.
And that was what kind of really brought us.
Yeah.
Because before then we really just kicked in on the outside.
Right. Yeah.
Good friends, but we weren't friends like we are now.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like the tour made us friends for life.
Yeah, exactly. That's when I learned that you was as technical as me. Like you're a techie. Like people don't know. Like people don't know. You know what I'm saying? You are a techie.
I'm on it. Word up. So that's the story, man. That's how we really met and kind of came to where we at now.
And that was around the Roxbury. Like you were born in Roxbury. You still live in that area too.
Yes.
In the 1940s, which wasn't too long ago, given our history, there was this migration of African Americans from the Jim Crow South to northern cities, and it made Roxbury home to a growing number of African Americans. So by 1960, Roxbury was predominantly white, and then it became predominantly black. So it is the heart of Boston's African American community. So you must take great pride coming from that area.
Yeah, of course, man. I did. I named my second album.
Don't rap about crack, cook, positive outlook.
Negative, we gotta balance this. Organic, no additives. Navigate the challenges. You might get picked, you might get skipped, y'all. It's up and down. Life's full of pitfalls.
Yeah, of course, man. Roxbury has a lot of rich history.
Anybody can succeed as long as you believe you can achieve.
Yeah, it's a great, black, definite historical place when it comes to Boston. And you got, cats like myself that came from here, Insight, New Edition, so there's a lot of Malcolm X actually lived here for a time, grew up here as well. So, Farrakhan, just a lot of prominent power to the people from here.
Yeah, as someone who grew up in Texas, I learned about Boston through hip hop. I learned about the Charles Stewart murder case through hip hop. I learned more than 100 officers were scouring Mission Hill, Roxbury, Mattapan. I know about Mattapan because Big Suge calls it Murderpan.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I mean, hip hop. That's what everybody did. Like, I didn't know anything about the Bronx until Boogie Down Productions and Just Ice and these people that were telling you what was going on. And it's the same with here. We had a story to tell, and we were just trying to tell our story. You know what I'm saying? And the way that we knew how.
I think that's my favorite thing about hip hop is I get to learn about people in other regions. Next to Mattapan, you have Dorchester, which Insight you lived and worked a bit. Have you kept in contact with the Titanial Dread?
Yo, this dude, he gets all the information of like how the hell does he get all this info? Yeah, man, I do. But I lived all around Massachusetts, man. Really, like when you're trying to find a place to like do your music, you just go wherever you get cheap rent. You know what I'm saying?
Well, this apartment was where the Knights of the Round was almost formed. Did you at least have a good landlord where you could play your music loud and not have to worry about getting evicted?
Man, like I used to just record and everybody used to just be there. Like I would just get evicted all the time because we would just be doing music with mad people coming in and out until I got older and I just didn't want to be doing that. So
well, when you got a job at Hot 97.7, did things get a little bit better?
It was all right. I mean, I kind of got into was able to understand how radio was working. It kind of taught me some things, but then I just wanted to do more music. I think that was at the beginning of when I started releasing music. So I just got tired of playing stuff and just wanted to release music instead.
Well, I'm still expanding kind of on those early days. It's funny. We were just talking Edo.G. When people interview you, people talk about Guru a lot, but I know what everyone knows about Gangstar, but they probably don't know about Cold World. When Gangstar was called the Gangstar Crew with MC Keithy E, DJ Mikey D. They had to get a Texas producer Primo and go to New York, but it's still Boston. But Boston claims all that, right? We can still say that.
Of course. I mean, Gangstar is from Boston.
On the tables we have DJ Wanna Be Down, Mikey D. To my left I have Beatbox Supreme, member of the Def Gangstar Crew, Demariski. Also to my left I have Jamil Alexander Alexis, who makes it the Fourth Degree. And it's a cold world. It's a cold, cold world. It's a cold, cold world. It's a cold, cold, cold world. It's a cold, cold world. Listen to the message that I convey to the world.
Bostonian.
Right.
He lived in Brooklyn, but that Boston accent never left him.
Nope.
It came out in every verse.
Yeah, it did.
He couldn't hide it.
He could not hide it.
And I don't think he was trying to hide it, man. Like I said, I knew Guru very well. I was with him the day he left to New York. He bought my boy's radio because his car didn't have no system in it. And, it wasn't that. It was just trying to make it, man.
Yeah.
The only thing that Boston didn't like was that he didn't shout Boston out enough. You know what I mean? In the music.
But you know how Boston was back then. Boston will make you work. You had to work. You're dope. You just had to know it.
No, for sure. But I'm just saying, Boston had that little thing with where it was like, you rap Brooklyn, yo.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So they always had that little with them when it came to him.
Right. That's true.
Cold world and sensitivities all around. Yo, and I'm trying to figure out what's going down. Hate and war, these things are wrong. What we need is peace, so listen to this song. For all the crime, the hunger, poverty, and pollution, only you and I can create a solution. Cause it's a cold, cold world. 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 It's a cold, cold world.
Well, what was it like working with like a 22-year-old Diamond D? You know what's crazy? You take a song like Love Comes and Goes, that George Benson sample, that song is now older than the sample you took it from now.
Yeah, that's insane because, and we had to actually have that played over because George Benson is a crazy Jehovah's Witness. And I said, I think ass on the song or something like that. And they didn't want us to use the sample.
Oh, wow.
Because I cursed.
Damn.
And so we have that's actually not a sample. That's a played over. We had a guitarist come in and a bassist, and they played that over.
Damn.
Wow, that's incredible. It kind of reminds me of Isaac Hayes when he got on South Park and he didn't like all the cursing and suggestive themes, so he left. And it's like, man, I thought Isaac Hayes was a little cooler than that. But
some guys that's just a little, I mean, there's a thing, with cursing and overdoing it, of course. But come on, like,
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Isaac Hayes, really?
Well, last week we celebrated 30 years of life of a kid in the ghetto, and I think it's kind of full circle because the guy who produced on Life of a Kid in the Ghetto, Joe Mansfield, his label Get On Down is helping release the record you guys are doing, and I think that's incredible. I think life is really funny in that way.
Yeah, man, it definitely goes all the way back, man. We got in this business together. And now, we're still working together 30 years later.
30 years later, man. It's crazy. I think I known you, 30, it's more than 30 years. It's crazy.
I think repping Boston is kind of the theme over and over, but I know it's kind of this love-hate thing because, Insight, we were talking, I know the streets of Boston, they force you to fall into a bad crowd growing up. Your house didn't have heat. So as you fall more and more in love with hip-hop, you start purchasing equipment. And rumor has it in the late 90s, the sampler you used was in such bad shape, it shocked you every time you touched it.
Wait, where did you get this information?
Is that true?
Well, I did have a sampler that I used to tinker a lot. I would open equipment and do stuff like that. I did have a sampler that I had opened it up and it had wires exposed, but I don't know if it would shock me, but I definitely had wires exposed. So
that's funny. And you come from St. Thomas, but you were a little boy when you moved to Boston. Have you been back to St. Thomas? I was reading the other day that there's only 27 COVID deaths. Only 27, so they must be a very smart group of islanders, some smart people.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, actually, I've been back. I actually moved from St. Thomas. Most of my family actually moved to the Bronx, and then they moved we drove to Boston. My pops actually thought Boston was up and coming, and we moved here. So since I was 5, I've been here and been back to St. Thomas maybe 4 or 5 times.
Are we talking up and coming in terms of that was like the next stage in his music career? He wanted to set up shop in Boston, or when he moved to Boston, that was his way of retiring from music and focusing on something else?
He was more thinking in terms of like the place as far as technology, education, and just the infrastructure, economics of Boston, more so than just like opportunity for entertainment.
Or did he do any songs that maybe you've sampled, or are there any songs that have seen the light of day that we would recognize, or it was more just kind of low key?
Interesting. He mostly did spiritual music. So he's like, does like calypso and that's him. He was he wasn't really trying to get famous with anything. But he's an excellent musician. I mean, he plays every instrument. Like he just plays every. He used to do stadiums and things like that. He basically came here and was doing. He does a lot of trades. People from the islands, they tend to have trades. So he kind of was a mechanic and kind of did music passionately on the side. He still loves doing it though.
Well, I mean, that's in parallel with you. You released a project in 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005, and then you vanished for 6 years.
Interesting. Yeah.
You took a hiatus. You did the Risk Takers with Count Bass D.
Yep.
And then,
yep. So it's funny. So guess what happened in 2004?
Is it going to be something obvious, or was it with the world?
So I'll tell you. So 2004, iTunes, right? So right there, when MP3s, iTunes, and finally something hit that I understood. I understand technology to the point where I was so far ahead in 2004 as to like what was about to happen that I started preparing software and started working on platforms and things like that. So then, boom, 2007 hits. Then what was then? I'm pretty sure you would know. So the first thing that comes out, iPhone, right? I remember before the iPhone, just getting into software and doing things that people were just questioning. What the hell are you working on, or why are you? I'm like, well, people are going to be buying apps like crazy, and then people just saying to me like, what's an app? What is that? And same thing happened years later with live streaming videos. I kind of was ahead of that. Like Ed remembers, like we was on tour. I had like a whole streaming system set up before any of this stuff was happening. So what happened in 2004 was I started realizing that music is more than just an audible experience. I started working on audio, video, interactivity, things like that, and started realizing that it takes more time to develop some of these things. So I just went into a silo of just getting my technology and understanding for software languages and things like that down. And then just speed. So that's speeding past what actually happened. I'm just flying through the explanation.
But so you found great success in app development, social media, electronics in a pre-social media era. That's got to be kind of. I don't know if it's being an early adopter at that time was as advantageous as it could have been.
Guess what happened in 1993 when I graduated? The internet started. Right, the day, like maybe like the month after everything went public, I started a forum. So I started learning PHP like way back then, like just learning. Well, before that, it was just coding on the terminal and Unix and things like that. But the basics of web programming, I started, made a forum. And that had a major impact in terms of me getting connections and things like that. Like you couldn't believe it, but I mean, I had a big hip hop forum. Like around that time, I think 1994, a lot of the hip hop blogs that was around then, I had just as many people going to my website as they did. So it was like I would say my career started because I had that technical advantage and networking power. So I think it's the same. It's part of the same thing. Even now, right? What don't a lot of labels have access to? Developers, software understanding. That's why a lot of maybe music companies don't have well put together apps or things like that. Maybe they're now getting to that point. But I think a technical advantage kind of always came into play for my career.
Well, I'm surprised you and Edo.G aren't releasing this record as a NFT or on the blockchain or something.
Oh, we already there. We're just not telling you. Like, yo, Ed is on it. He's already hit me up about all this stuff. We're already kind of. I'm at the point now where I'm kind of getting things set up so that I can actually allocate time to just working on the software and spending time doing the music. So because if you want to make it quality, you got to put in the time.
I'd buy a few Edo tokens, a few Insight tokens. I'm just saying.
Hey, man, we're going to get to that. We're getting to that very soon.
We're going to get to it.
We're on it. Trust me. We got a bunch of stuff we've been working on. And it's all coming now. Like, we got everything we need. We got to do a few more shots, and we'll have that NFT and the blockchain up.
Yeah,
everything.
yeah. We literally just talked. We talked about this. We got a lot of stuff in works, man. Just one step at a time.
Well, going back to like 93, 25 years ago, when you look back at your earlier work like Triangular Warfare, does it conjure up good feelings?
It's interesting. I mean, the past sounds like the past to me. I just feel like what that does for me is I listen to my previous self, and I feel like I have so many unreleased, so much unreleased material that people haven't heard that they don't know what Insight is now. You know what I mean? So now I just need to get to work. So when I listen to the past, I'm like, damn, I was getting busy. There's shit that we made back then and I didn't understand why he didn't like it. I didn't understand like why certain shit didn't get used, right? So then I can't focus on that. I can only that's why if you look at the career, I have my own taste and my own collabs, and there's a reason why now, like look at the current album, right? That album it has this level of sincerity. It sounds cohesive with both. It just sounds like hip hop. There's no question about it, and I think it's dope because of that. We just and the other stuff. I mean, it just sounds like the past to me. It just sounds like I did that. That's just some old shit. You know what I'm saying? So
I hear you loud and clear. And speaking of old music, old platforms, Edo, I did want to compare a platform. You come on my podcast, and you might, because I can't guarantee you'll be heard by a few thousand people, and it might push 1 to 10 of your vinyl, add a few streams to the Spotify. But when you go on Soul Train, what does one appearance of that do for a career before the internet age? Is it easier now, or is it more complicated now to promote and get your name out there?
No, I think it's definitely much easier now because the power is in your hands. So, before the power was in someone else's hands, a publicist, a label, it was a whole bunch of different components that made up, getting you on Soul Train. You know what I'm saying? Everyone didn't get on Soul Train. So, there's a lot of artists that came out that had good records, but they might not have got on Soul Train. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that was obviously the dream as a young kid growing up in the 70s, Soul Train every Saturday. That was like, the thing for years and years and years, every Saturday. And then once they started putting, hip hop on there, it was like, wow, maybe we could get on there. And, we ended up doing it, meeting Don Cornelius. It was a great, great experience, man. Unlike anything you could.
How'd you do that though? 5 years prior, you were just a beatboxer, and I don't even think you were legally allowed to drink alcohol when you were on that show.
I didn't know how it worked, and that they filmed, about 10 shows in one day. Like 10 weeks. I didn't, I'm young. I didn't know any of that stuff, man. I'm like 2021 and seeing, and we perform now. The next people are coming. People are changing clothes. There's like doing all these shows at once. So it was a bugged out experience, man, to see how it really worked and how small the set was. I mean, it was only held maybe like 30 people. But when you watch Soul Train, you would think it was 200 people in there.
They framed it up nice.
Oh man, the camera work was great.
And I just thought that it was a big deal because the season that you were on Soul Train, it was all R&B. Boys to Men, I'll Be Sure, OJ's, Keith Sweat, Johnny Gill, Freddie Jackson, Jodeci, and then bam, Edo.G and the Bulldogs.
Yeah, man. That's a classic year to be on. I didn't even know that. Thank you for informing me about that. Word. That was all the backdoor label stuff, so I had no knowledge of what was going on, how that all worked until years later. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I mean, shout out to the record company for making that happen, man.
Well, I know we're flip-flopping the timeline. I think now is a kind of a good time to kind of talk about this record. Insight, there was a lot going on in the mid-2000s for you as an American under the Bush presidency. You had a lot on your mind. Before this took place, you were telling me you moved to Germany and you moved back to U.S. soil. And I think that was to kind of get your thoughts together. It might kind of seem like deja vu with this record with Edo.G. Maybe it's you guys giving a piece of your mind during the Trump era of America.
Oh, man. So you said a lot there to unfold. I mean, I yeah, I was getting busy around that time. I moved in 2004. I think I was on tour with Ed, and then I literally, at one point, I told Ed I wasn't going home, and I didn't. I, I just stayed out there. And the other question about how it relates to now, it's yeah, there's a lot of fucked up shit going on now. But I think the music is always an outlet to get that off your mind. I think we did a good job of kind of getting that out.
Well, I mean, thank God for the progress of free speech, because like we talked about, you and Damu, the first Wise Society album, was originally rejected by the label because I guess in the mid 2000s they wanted gun talk and look how big my rims are, and they didn't, nor were they expecting that dose of societal honesty from you guys. So 15 years later, give or take a few years, you have another record that speaks on inequality, racism, and ignorance in the media. Did you have any PTSD that maybe this record would encounter those same roadblocks? Maybe Brick Records or Rob Perry or whoever would shelve it and say, "Yo, what are the boom-bap joints that we know and love you guys for?"
I don't think that that would happen now, because you can't really shelf it. There's so many opportunities to put shit out. There's nobody holding you back. You know what I'm saying?
We don't need labels anymore.
Yeah.
Labels kind of collaborate artists to do cool projects.
Right, collaborate. And collaborate is a good word because Papa D, Brick, basically I'm looking at them like collaborators, like we're partners on this project, because it was actually the label that hit me up, like, and then me and Ed was already cool, and he was like, "Yo, you should do an album with Ed," so it was like we kind of partnered up, because I kind of was busy doing software shit and all this other shit, and just had music piling up, and it just makes it it just was a dope collaboration for us, and allowed the record to just get put together, and all the shit that just happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's definitely more of a collaboration thing, man.
Yeah,
like labels shelving stuff and doing all of that. Those days are over.
Yeah,
artists have much power to put out whatever they want whenever they want.
Right. Your label could be your cell phone. Literally, your label could be your cell phone now.
The lead single I thought was very powerful, and regarding the song, you both hope to inspire the change necessary to change our future. The song is great. It inspires significant steps, forward toward changing policy and attitudes about race in this country. But it's a tall order to create that message in 3 minutes with a 3-minute visual in a museum to set out and accomplish that. I think you guys did that, so it's incredible.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah.
And I'm just speaking for myself here, but it's not entirely clear who's leading the movement for Black Lives. The 3 women who co-founded Black Lives Matter, they have not occupied center stage during these past months of protest. So to the average person, it might look like no one's in charge. So maybe it's up to the everyday person, and maybe unlike political music like Bob Marley, your musical message is out to change societal norms, not just government policies.
Exactly.
Yeah, what you said is exactly right, man. I mean, I think everybody has a responsibility to represent that change, and now that's what we do.
Do you think that strategy is intentional? Without a sole charismatic leader, Edo, you said Malcolm X is from your hood. The movement is less vulnerable to attacks, such as the assassination of civil rights leaders of the 60s, Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Do you think protests led by one, or in this case 3 women, could have led to violence? So now the protests are made by the people?
I think this all is such an organic, timely thing. It all happened everything happens for a reason. And, the women who started this movement, it started it as a movement for everybody and for other people to take the lead in their area, in their, city or state. So, and it just spread like wildfire all across the world. You got Black Lives Matter all over Europe. They have chapters, all over the world. But so, I think it's just a movement. It's like the civil rights movement. That was a movement of a whole bunch of different things. under that banner, and this is the same thing.
But Insight had a really good theory that I really loved. He said that the greatest speakers are MCs. You know, Gandhi, Muhammad, Malcolm X. They might not be hip hop artists, but they moved more crowds than any hip hop artist, and they moved the world. And I gotta say, I agree with that. I kind of miss the Martin Luther Kings and all that.
Yeah, we definitely lost that part where I think the last great orator that we had was Barack Obama.
Americans who sent a message to the world that we have never been just a collection of individuals or a collection of red states and blue states. We are and always will be the United States of America.
He inspired with
He
his,
did. I was in Berlin. I was living in Berlin when he came there in Berlin, and he filled up the whole entire. It's just like I didn't know who he was at that time.
Progress. Life could be a cutthroat process. Part of the test, break goes to small step progress. When situations get hard pressed, nevertheless. If you with it, nod yes, it's progress. Success just a one-step process. Part of the test, gotta break your goals in a small step. Progress. When situations get hard pressed, make progress. And if you with it, nod yes. Call it coincidence whenever it's the present. Since the past put you in the lesson. Future's the essence. You can step into a mirror, then admire your reflection, or travel through a network to multiply connections. Progress. Life could be a cutthroat process. Part of the test.
It's just like he filled up the whole entire area. Like I've never seen so many police in my life. When I was down there, it was like, who is that? Oh, this guy from America, Barack Obama. Barack Obama.
Yeah. I think he was our last great one, man, with what he did, because everything he did was through the mouthpiece.
Right.
So,
What do you guys want to talk about the album that I didn't cover?
first, it comes out the 28th of this month. You can pre-order it now. Second, the video progress is on YouTube. Make sure y'all share that, watch it, like it, comment. And the album for me is just a dope collaborative album with Sight. I've been talking to him. We've probably been talking about doing an album for about 10 years, to be honest with you. And everything just kind of lined up, at the right time. I wasn't expecting that or nothing. It just all happened. It happened organically. And, it's a dope record, man, from top to bottom. And there's a lot of, even though we blew through it probably in about a month and a half, we finished it. But being that we're both kind of techie guys and into, a lot of craziness stuff, it's very thoughtful. It's a thoughtful album, man. All the songs, have something in there that you could take away, that's going to help you out. I just think that, I've been dying to do this with him for about 10 years. Now we finally got it done, and it's, it's dope. And I can't wait to get out there and do some shows and let the people feel it in person.
And to make sure to check out InsightInnovates.com.
You could go Ed-Og.com, and all the links are there.
And it was an honor to interview you both. I appreciate your flexibility and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you.